Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbia Online, a congregation striving to embody courageous love, radical welcome, and deep connection. We are so grateful to be gathering together digitally this morning, remembering that church is not a building, but is a beloved community of all of us together. I'm the Reverend Molly Housh Gordon, the minister of this congregation, and I'm very glad and grateful to welcome you to our gathering. Although we miss dearly being together in person on Sundays, the online services have given us an opportunity to connect with many people we might not have met otherwise. We welcome in particular members of the Jefferson City Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, as well as anyone visiting from Missouri or beyond. Thank you for joining us. A few comments about protocol for today's online worship. We are on Zoom and streaming live to Facebook. If you are with us in Zoom, we are on webinar mode, so we can't hear or see you. Feel free to eat your breakfast in your PJs and don't worry about any noises unfolding around you. You will, however, be able to interact and say hello through the chat feature, both on Zoom and on Facebook. If you're on Zoom, make sure you choose everyone or panelists and attendees so we can all see your comments. These will be particularly useful if you wish to share a joy or sorrow later in the service. If this is the first time you're joining us, worshiping online, please do fill out a visitor's card digitally at the link provided in the chat. Let us know a little bit about you and we can keep you posted on what we're up to as well. I'd like to thank the folks that make our online worship possible. Thank you to our tech hosts, April Rodagero and Holly Daly, to our worship associate, Jeff Ordway, and of course to our amazing staff, our religious educator, Jamila Batchelder, music director, Jeremy Wagner, and pianist, Hans Hareth. Please now relax and enjoy our prelude.
Everything begins on the verge of awareness. The dawn is not, and then is. Sleep is, and then is not. In between is the awakening. The passage of thin light between breaks open the day. The passage of thin sound between flows into the day. Too soon, the numbing rumble of traffic swells. The day glares. Let the soft haze hang again across the row of morning. Wait upon the narrow moment, the first awareness of being in between. Live days and seasons on the thin edge of dawn in praise that every single thing begins now. I invite you to join in singing from home our gathering hymn, Find a Stillness.
Find stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit, giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
You may now wish to find a candle at home or look in the chat for a digital chalice, which you can light by clicking on the chalice image. And we will now light our chalice, the symbol of our faith in the cup of community and the inextinguishable flame of the human spirit. As we do, will you please join me in lifting your voices in homes across our city, country, and world to share our weekly words of affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. This month we're exploring how we live with uncertainty. And today we'll be celebrating the equinox, the day where light and dark are perfectly balanced. So for our centering, I want us to think about balance. And two memories came back to me as I started reflecting on this. The first was watching my children as they learn to stand. I stand every day without giving it any thought. But watching them learn, it made me notice again how much goes into it. Mastering, understanding your center of gravity and figuring out how to place it and arrange it perfectly. It felt almost miraculous when, after so much unsteadiness and with such concentration, they finally stood. They balanced themselves. Like they performed some sort of breathtakingly complicated physics problem. It made me think about everything my body is doing every day to keep performing this impossible miracle of not toppling over. And then I also remembered my grandmother, who in the last years of her life really struggled with balance. And I remember watching her move with such attention, such carefulness. And I remember how it felt, the soft touch of her hand on my arm when she reached out to steady herself. And the way she would smile at me so sweetly with such appreciation, it spread all over her face that I was there to help her find that balance again. Balancing is a lifelong process. And balance means different things to each of us with different bodies, different histories, different abilities. But our bodies, as well as our spirits, are constantly seeking a state of balance as we careen through this world with the ground always shifting under our feet. Sometimes it is so effortless we stop even noticing we are doing it. And sometimes it requires more effort than anything else in life. So let's take a moment to be aware of and appreciative of our body's efforts to help us find balance. Take a moment to become aware of where that center of balance lies in your body. Maybe you can become more aware of it by challenging your balance a little right now, in whatever way that feels right for you. Try shifting your weight around and notice all the tiny adjustments that your body is making to find that center again and again. Feel the awareness in each part of you as it adjusts and rebalances to the new circumstances. Feel each muscle doing its work, tiny or large, to return you to balance. And be aware that balance does not have to come from inside of us alone. Feel where your body comes into contact with other objects. Your feet on the flatness of the floor, a back propped up by a cushion, a loved one you can lean against for support. Remember that you have learned countless times how to find that center of balance as it shifts again and again and again. The ground under you will continue to shift. Circumstances will change. You will change. And once again, you will find your balance.
Perhaps feeling a bit more centered now, we join in bolstering and buttressing and holding one another up, as we do each week when we share the joys and sorrows of our community, holding one another in heart across the distance, knowing that we are indeed held up amid life's sorrows and joys alike. I will begin by sharing the joys and sorrows submitted at our website and a few prayers for our world. And then I will invite all of you gathered online to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. So let us send continued healing wishes to Candy Iveson, who shares gratitude for all of our get well wishes after an injury. She reports, "I am indeed progressing, buoyed by your positive thoughts. What joy comes from this congregation." Let us also give thanks for our Board of Trustees, who held their annual retreat yesterday, a bit outdoors and a lot on Zoom, and who held each of you in heart as we read your names aloud in our worship together. Let us give thanks to have such dedicated leaders who grapple faithfully with what it means to lead well in this time. We join our hearts with Heather, who shares a prayer for the grieving people of the world, as she writes, "May our pain be transmuted from our hearts into right action. And when action is too much to manage, may we be okay to kneel down and ask for help from above. May we pray to hear the voices of love and joy as guides and teachers from within. We join our hearts with Jim Shanto, who shares a concern for all his friends and relatives in California, the state of his birth, who are suffering during a terrible wildfires throughout the state, and who also shares joy for the recent 170th anniversary of California's statehood. Let us join in wishing our Jewish members, friends, and neighbors a very sweet new year as they celebrated Rosh Hashanah this weekend and as they enter a time of reflection, atonement, and renewal in these high holy days. May you be inscribed and sealed in the book of life for a good year. And let us join our hearts with all who grieve the loss of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We celebrate her life of faithful struggle for dignity and equity for every person. We give thanks for her service to our nation's highest court and indeed to all of us. We give thanks for the way she dedicated her every breath unto her very last to protecting the vulnerable and bringing justice where she could. May her memory be a blessing. And we join our hearts with all who grieve in fear for themselves, their loved ones, and our nation upon the loss of Justice Ginsburg from the court. May we recommit our lives in her honor and in love of our fellow people to the ongoing struggle to uphold human dignity in the face of every power and force that would deny it. May our passion and action for justice be a piece of her legacy, as we remember that we were always the ones we were waiting for. I will now share our joys and sorrows from the chat. We join our hearts in deep care and concern for Tonette's in-laws who live next door and who have tested positive for COVID, who both have health issues and are older. We pray for their well-being. We join our hearts with Tim and Alberta as they share joys for healing and lots of progress for Alberta after elbow surgery. We join our hearts with Sarah Hiles, who shares concern for her father whose health continues to decline, and for her entire family now rallying to support their parents through this phase. We join with Barb Carter, who shares sadness that Lita and her parents have moved away to Mountain Grove, and who shares concern about their new living situation. We join our hearts with Sadie in remembering deeply Lynn Lansdell and Pat Lansdell Rice, who both have died this year. We join our hearts with Burr in sharing joy for a new furry family member, dog Casey. We join our hearts with Robin, who asks us to hold space for the passing of her friend's father and another friend's 22-year-old cousin. We join our hearts with Dottie and Rosie in sorrow that their son Philip has once again been hospitalized for mental health and addiction issues. For him and for all whose brain chemistry and poor choices cause suffering for themselves and others, we lift up a prayer. These things and so many more joys and sorrows, hopes and worries and loves, we hold together in the balance, knowing that we are met in that balance by so many forces of love and compassion that uphold us. Will you now please continue with me in the spirit of prayer with these words from the Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, You who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it. Be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of perfectly balanced light and dark. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, all the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach to others in compassion. Turn us toward each other in mercy and right relationship and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns and of seasons and of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them where we can. Help us to understand our interdependence, our gravitational relatedness with all of the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with such care. In this space, in the connections between people who shine like stars, in these connections filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this world of spinning and tilt and balance. Blessed be.
Our next musical offering will be So We Go by Pat DeSimio, who is a fellow UU. The song is about the changes present in the world. Come as the summer turns toward autumn, come as the long night stars climb higher, come as time's unceasing turning wheels us round the harvest fire. So we go from daylight toward the night. So we go, turning on through life. Come as the sun turns bearded barley from soft green to a brazen bronze. Come as the sunflowers rest their heads in the peace of sleep while the sun spins on. So we go from daylight toward the night. So we go, turning on through life. as mistakes turn into wisdom. Come as the rash become the sage. Come as the blooms of youth grow into the feast and seed of our autumn days. So we go from daylight toward the night. So we go, turning on through life.
For most of my childhood, I was pretty oblivious to the equinox. My best friend's birthday was the next day. I think it got most of my attention. But I vividly remember the equinox when I was 13 years old and how profoundly that day affected me. The memory is inextricably linked in my mind with the run-up to the first Gulf War. In that beautiful September, I was horrified that we seemed to be on this inexorable path toward war. The first war that my country would enter in my lifetime, though sadly not the last. And I was young enough that I remember wishing that I could find just the right words and write a letter to the president and convince him to make a different choice. And I was old enough to know just how impossible that was. I felt like I was in the tidal wave of world events that would shape the rest of my life. And I was just being swept along, tumbled head over heels, powerless to change the course of events. And maybe I was so caught up in world events because it was easier than facing the other tidal wave in my life, that it was a week away from the date my parents had announced at the beginning of the summer, the day my dad would be moving out of our house. My memory of that September was feeling like the world, my world, was spinning out of control. I'm not sure I've ever felt entirely like things are in control ever since. And it was during that time that I signed up for a 3-week elective at the weird hippie school I attended, a class on ritual taught by a pagan priestess. It maybe influenced my choice of career. And she taught us about the cycles of the year, the patterns of growing light and growing darkness, endlessly shifting and spinning, and the turning points that marked the pagan year. And here we were arriving at one, the equinox. Day and night in balance, the world in balance, even as it kept spinning. There was something that spoke to me so powerfully in that imagery, in the symmetry of it, the order in amongst all the chaos. I remember walking around that whole day, just soaking in the golden light, watching the gorgeous, serene orange sunset, and then sitting in that clear indigo stillness of the evening. I can still vividly see the light and the darkness of that day. I can still feel it. It gave me something I desperately needed. The war still happened. My parents' divorce still happened. Life still felt out of control. but somehow I felt more ready to face it. It was like a moment to catch my breath, to re-find my center before tumbling headlong into whatever was to come. It had the feel of standing at the top of a hill that you just ran up and are about to run down, but for a moment you stop, eyes closed, feeling the breeze on your face, the sunlight on your eyelids, stepping outside for just a moment of that running, being still for just a moment. No moment feels more like a turning point of the year to me than the equinox. No longer summer, not yet fall. The sensation that everything is about to change is so overwhelming, so poignant. And yet it hasn't changed yet. But it's also no longer as it was. It's a point balanced in the in-between. A moment to collect ourselves, to accept the gift of this moment, to remember what balance feels like. And the earth is calling us to take this moment, to notice it, to let all our being open to it. The whole world is dusted in gold. The golden rods, the touch of golden yellow still on the mostly green trees. And most of all, the light, the way the light turns so golden this time of year. And so I invite you now to embody this moment, to step into this golden hour and let yourself open to it.
The audio doesn't seem to be working on our share, so I'm going to ask April to go ahead and stop your share, and I will share it from my computer instead. Thank you all for your patience as we share this meditation with you. Oops. The earth is spinning, 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 always spinning. And we are on the earth as it spins. We are of the earth as it spins. Generations come and go with our pain, our joys, our hopes, our fears, all the ways we hurt each other, all the ways we are hurt. We live our lives of beauty and terror, and the earth keeps spinning. The climate changes slowly and then too fast. Fires and floods leave us helpless, and still the earth spins. The powerful consolidate control, hoard resources, stamp out lives, The vulnerable organize, share, and claim power, dignity, hope. We lose our champions, dance with despair. We remember again that we are the ones we've been waiting for, and amid it all, the earth spins. The earth tilts toward the sun, and our days are long and bright. The earth tilts away, and our colder days give way to night. Year after year we tilt toward, away, toward, away. We hold on tight to one another as the earth tilts and spins. And every year twice for one day the earth is upright, perfectly in balance. Suspended in space, cradled in the tension of opposing forces. We pause from the tilting, even as we continue to spin. We pause. Step off for a moment. Rest outside of time. Let the spinning earth take care of itself for a moment. Remember that the universe is very big and we are very small. And every one of us is precious, made of stars. Every one of us held like our blue planet in balance for just this moment. Let the moment expand in this liminal time, when day and night meet in perfect symmetry, when light and dark balance each other entirely. Let a spaciousness open in your heart as the rising of the sun and its setting pull the day and night forth in equal measure. Let it pull your consciousness wide open. Let a stillness come over you in this moment between the night stretching behind you, the day stretching in front. Let the golden light of the season add sacred, sustaining attention to your days. Let your breath find the symmetry of the dark and the light, sun ray and shadow. Let your breath find the symmetry of the great big inhale of sunrise a long sigh of its setting. In and out in perfect rhythm. Let the balance of your breath carry you outside of time to the place where you are held in possibility, wordless and true. The days will be shorter now, and the earth will keep spinning. Much work is before us, and the earth will keep spinning. No one is coming to save us, but the earth will keep spinning. We will hold fast to each other, and the earth will keep spinning. We have everything we need, while the earth is still spinning. Thank you to everyone who's worked on this service to help us think in different ways about balance. It struck me as we prepared for today that right now our lives feel full of precarity. And if you think of balance as a perfect stillness, you're in trouble because there's not much of that to be had right now. But Jamila showed us so beautifully during our centering that we are always moving, that balance is something we find in motion. That's just physics. Our worship associate, Jeff, and I were talking about the service, and he said that it made him think of the way we ride a bike. If you get going at a good clip, you're golden. But the minute you start to slow, you have to weave and wobble. And when you stop, you tip. Our lives are always moving, always going. And if we stop clenching the brakes, then that movement is exactly where we can find a spacious balance. But I also always want to complicate a word when we talk about it in worship. And I think when we talk about balance in our society today, you hear a lot of sentiments that are just unachievable. When I think about balance at this stage in my life, I hear a lot of people talking about work-life balance. And work-life balance under capitalism is a total scam. It's not possible. It gives the individual responsibility to try and make something of the systemic way the economy is designed to extract the very lifeblood from them. Work-life balance is not a thing that we can seek under that system. And work-life balance now, under capitalism, during a global pandemic, well, I don't know whether to laugh or cry or scream. The things we are trying to balance with each other are impossible, totally incompatible. You cannot be a third grade teacher, an eighth grade teacher, and an IT professional and find balance between those things. That's just a crush. But I wonder if we let go of trying to find balance between and among the things that are challenging us, if balance is something that comes to us to join us in that, like a gift. The balance is not something we find within the crush so much as it is all of the help and compassion and love that rises to meet us in it. This is the theology of and in the face of suffering that I mentioned last week. Recently, a dear friend of mine suffered an unimaginable and terrible loss. She's been sharing a bit of her grieving process, and recently she wrote that these days she feels she is walking on a tightrope over a vast abyss. And every day it feels that the grief is pushing her so hard that she will topple over. And, she wrote, that every day an equal force of compassion and kindness, care and generosity pushes just as hard in the other direction, and she is upright. And she can keep walking this razor thin rope over this total void. To me, that is a truth about balance that can meet us in this time. That our lives are very precarious, and that a force of struggle and pain is pushing hard against them. And that our lives are very resilient and precious and surrounded in community and care that pushes just as hard the other way. And we are held in the incredible tension of opposing forces. And that is the balance that we can move within. And so I want to invite you right now to take a moment to feel the forces that are pushing on your life. First, take a moment to feel in a way that is safe the forces that are threatening to push you off the thin wire of your life. And then I want to invite you to let yourself feel the sustaining or saving forces that are rising to meet you, to push back and hold you upright. The poet Rilke writes, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand." Dear ones, you may be walking a very thin wire right now, journeying a very difficult path. Every time you feel as if you are about to topple, I hope you will feel the presence and the love of our community as one of the forces pushing the other way. Just keep going, and we'll take each other's hands. I want to teach you a song that I recently learned. It's a song from the South African tradition, from the time of apartheid and resistance. It's called "Courage, My Friend." And I'm going to sing it through 3 or 4 times and invite you to join in singing from home as you're moved. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Courage, my friend, you do not move alone. We will move with you and sing your spirit home. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Courage, my friend, you do not move alone. We will move with you and sing your spirit home. Now is the time in our service when we bolster one another materially by joining in the spiritual practice of generosity, guiding our hearts away from the fear and scarcity all around us, and remembering that it is by sharing and supporting one another that we feel most human. The connections of our congregation are so important now. We invite you to support our mission and our work with a contribution to our church. You can give at the link provided in the chat as we share another still moment of beautiful music. And Jeremy is going to take a moment to introduce us to this piece that he's sharing with us today.
Good morning, everyone. This next piece is titled Valgusele, which translates to light. It is written by Pärt Uusberg, who is an Estonian composer, and it is the message of this piece is to always be searching for light, whether you are in a well-lit time in your life or if you are amidst the darkness. So this is Valgusele by Pärt Uusberg.
And we thank you for your patience while we get this video running. We'd love to invite you to take this moment while we get it pulled up to go ahead and visit our website, and you can make your offering at uucomo.org/donate. And we will be rolling here in just a second. Our closing words are from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Even now, and especially now, you are not alone. We are with you across the distance. Go in blessing, dear ones, and be a blessing to a world that needs your care. Let us sing from home our benediction. Thank you for joining us, dear ones. We wish you a happy new year. If you celebrate Rosh Hashanah, we wish you a balanced equinox. We wish you a lovely, almost fall day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. For those of you who want to join us in coffee hour, we'd love to see your faces and chat and catch up. The meeting ID is on the slide. You can type that in, or there'll also be a link in the chat. I will be sure to share some of these videos on our Facebook page so that you can look at them again as the real equinox comes in a couple of days. And we'll see you soon. Take care.